Channel on Sirius XM, your favorite show.
This is the reason why that I chose to get off Facebook this year and strictly stick to nothing but YouTube. Please watch this.
We're finally learning what was really going on behind
Please watch.
Facebook during that whole
Listen up.
scandal. And how the company, once promised nothing but transparency, became masters of quote-unquote delaying, denying, and deflecting. That all according to a bombshell New York Times report, which Facebook is now going out of its way to try and discredit. Our correspondent Trace Gallagher is following the latest live from our West Coast newsroom. Good evening, Trace.
Good evening, Ed. The New York Times story on Facebook apparently took 5 months to put together, had 5 separate bylines, and came in at more than 5,000 words, going into great detail about how Facebook leaders knew very well in 2016 that Russia was using its platform to influence the election, but then resorted to what the Times calls delay, deny, and deflect, saying that after finding out its platform was being used to interfere with the election, Facebook leaders Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg tried to stall the evidence and later denied it was true. In fact, Mark Zuckerberg famously once called Russian meddling a, quote, pretty crazy idea. And later, Facebook reportedly deflected by hiring a conservative PR firm to blame other tech giants like Apple and Google. The Times goes on to say the PR firm even tried to get the media to report on financial ties between the enemies of Facebook and billionaire liberal donor George Soros.
Now hold up. If inside trading, working the stocks pertaining to Martha Stewart is illegal, to the point that she went to jail over that, you can't tell me that this does not fit under the same pretense of treasoning pertaining to an American group that was deliberately, I don't want to say selling information, but they was not being upfront with the American authorities towards just exactly what that they was doing. And this is one of the main reasons why, because I smelt something in the woodpile. I smelt the rat in the woodpile, because every time I would get a boat, all of a sudden I'd be flooded with all these boat commercials coming from Bass Pro Shop. Every time I'd get a dog, I'd get all kinds of stuff from PetSmart. Every time I'd get something else and I'd put on Facebook, and I identified that, I'm being monitored here. Not only am I being monitored, but I'm also being basically marketing skills that I wasn't planning on being a part of towards wanting to know about Buck and Bass or wanting to know about PetSmart. Because you know what? If I want a boat, I know where to get a boat. If I want to get some dog food or some cat food, I'll choose to my own liking of where I want to get my dog food or my cat food. I don't have to have somebody waving it in front of me. Oh, it's 40% off this week. You got to run and go get it. You can't tell me that this hasn't been marketing schemes that Facebook has been a part of, and that's one of the main reasons why that I got the heck away from them, is because I identified the illegitimacies in this particular organization. Not only did I identify the illegitimacies, but to be quite frank with you, I got tired, because it's time consuming whenever you get on Facebook, as entertaining as it may be, whenever you have to hackle or communicate with other people to the extent that you got to take on onslaught, smear, slanderous tactics by demonizing you or dehumanizing you on a one-to-one level. It takes entirely too much time, too much energy, and to be quite honest with you, I got tired of debating the information that I was trying to put out to the general public. And I looked upon it as being a form of tactic that was doing nothing more than hindering hindering that in which what God had called me out to do, which was be a messenger to put out a particular message to the general public and let the general public weigh in on whether or not they wanted to support it or not support it. I found it to be very, very discouraging on Facebook, as entertaining as it may seem, towards having to do this on a one-to-one level, in addition to it taking up entirely too much time, entirely too much energy. So I said, you know what, because of the privacy rights and because of other things that obviously that these people are just basically, what would you call them type of people back years ago? Busybodies, people that just wanted to hone in on other people's information, spy in on their affairs. That way they could spread gossipers throughout the land. I figured out real quick that this was not something that I really wanted to take on the full part of my platform towards getting my message out to my messengers. So because of it, I still have a Facebook account, but it's not a progressive open Facebook account. In other words, occasionally from time to time, somebody will hit my account and they'll want certain pictures. And I guess out of courtesy, out of Facebook, they go ahead and send me a statement verifying that somebody has taken something from me and used it doing something else, in which that's fine, because you don't never need to put nothing out there on social media, regardless of what social media it may be, Twitter, Angie's List, whatever. You don't need to put it out there unless you know that you're putting out something that either A, you can verify, B, you're not going to be ashamed of, or C, you don't have to worry about it coming back and biting you in some form or fashion pertaining to trying to I've forgotten the right word. It's kind of like taking a child and using them on the cover of a cereal commercial, on a cereal box. I've forgot the proper legal name for that, but there is a law against that. You're not supposed to be able to take somebody without their knowledge and without their permission or their parents' permission and use their identity to either sell or put your message out there to the general public. God, I know that word like I know on the tip of my tongue, and I just can't remember it. Anyways, let's watch the rest of this pertaining to Facebook. I found it to be very intriguing whenever I first heard it, and that's the only reason why that I'm documenting it right now on my documentation device.
Today, Soros called for Facebook to initiate an independent internal investigation into its lobbying and public relations work. And the president of the Open Society Foundation, which is the principal conduit for Soros donations, wrote an open letter to Sheryl Sandberg saying, quote, "It's been disappointing to see how you have failed to monitor hate and misinformation on Facebook's platform. To now learn that you are active in promoting these distortions is beyond the pale. The hate Mr. Gaspard refers to is the New York Times accusation that Facebook tried to depict its critics as anti-Semitic. Both Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg are Jewish. So far, Facebook has not flat out denied the accusations, but Zuckerberg has called them unfair, and during a conference call today he said this. Listen.
I've said many times before that we were too slow to spot Russian interference, too slow to stand it, and too slow to get on top of it. And we certainly stumbled along the way. But to suggest that we weren't interested in knowing the truth, or that we wanted to hide what we knew, or that we tried to prevent investigations is simply untrue.
The Times says that while Facebook was battling enemies, it was also rallying supporters like New York Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer, who raised more money from Facebook employees than any other member of Congress. The article says, as the criticism of Facebook mounted over its handling of Russian meddling, Schumer tried to get the Senate Intel Committee to slow walk its investigation of Facebook. Senator Schumer has not yet issued a statement on the article. Ed.
All right, Trace, appreciate your report. Republicans may have lost control of the House, but what if we told you that might have been a good thing when it comes to building the wall? Breaking new details from a meeting at the White House today. That's next.
On day one, you will begin working on an impenetrable, physical, tall, powerful, beautiful southern border wall.
This is the
word that I'm looking for is the same thing as marketing. For some reason, I just can't think of it right now. I guess it's just not a word that I use off the top of my head whenever you solicit. Solicit, that's the word I'm looking for. You can't solicit children or anybody really towards taking their face, their image, and putting it on a cereal box, or using it for a commercial, or even using it as a theme. You can't use that person and solicit that person without their knowledge, without getting some sort of permission, because basically you're reaching an area of marketing that person without their will. And there's a difference in marketing something and actually obtaining money for it and just putting it out there in regard to it being part of the story. And I think that's where a lot of people, especially your judges, don't either understand or recognize the difference between the two, because it can be extremely shady in between, kind of like splitting hairs of knowing whether or not this person has willfully committed some sort of a crime in knowingly knowing that they was marketing this person's face, or marketing this person's name, or marketing this person without their knowledge. It's almost like splitting hairs of somebody that's marketing versus somebody that is just part of their story. If it's part of the Me Too movement pertaining to your story and getting your story out there, and there's no money that has exchanged hands, well, then that's on a complete different translation in comparison to taking somebody and soliciting their name or soliciting their face against their will. And I'm hoping to my viewers that that made somewhat of a little bit of sense. But the bottom line is this: whenever I identified that there was problems with Facebook back in the winter and this spring, I immediately sheltered myself from that industry, even though it's a billion-dollar industry. I think it may have actually hit the $1 trillion mark. I don't know. I know the phone industry itself hit the $1 trillion mark, towards it being one of the largest American-made industries in the world. But that's one reason why that I sheltered myself from getting away from Facebook, is because it was tacky. It was dirty. There was too many loose ends that I felt like was not appropriate. And because of the way that they was hounding me, and I'm going to use the word hounded, because like I said, I identified whenever I would buy a car, a certain car, I'd get a certain commercial. When I'd get a boat, I'd get a certain commercial. When I'd get a dog or a cat, I'd get a certain commercial. I knew then that I was being hounded. You're being targeted towards them profiling you, and there's no need of them sending you an ad about a sewing machine and sewing machine products if you're an automobile mechanic. There's no need of sending a plumber advertising pertaining to being a body man if you know that that is what that guy does, that he's a plumber. So I identified the imperfections, the illegitimacies in Facebook, and because of it, I steered clear of them. I said, you know what? Until they get this mess straightened out, I'm just solely going to depend upon you two. That way, I can put my message out to who I want to put it out to, and my viewers, my messengers that I put my message out to, they can take that same YouTube channel and they can either flip it to somebody else, because a lot of times you can flip it and keep flipping and flipping and flipping and flipping, and it may not show up on your documentation device that you've only had, let's say, 30 viewers. But you may have had 30,000 that flipped it. But it just wasn't recorded on your end towards how many times that it had been flipped. Now, if they go directly into your phone and pull out that particular YouTube message, if you get enough of them, then YouTube is good enough about actually paying you for that information in regard to now you start looking appealing to advertising agencies. And how many times have you gotten some sort of a YouTube channel and the first thing that pops up is a commercial ad? Sometimes you have the opportunity that you can immediately pull away from that commercial ad and go directly to the message. And then there's other times, depending upon how crucial that the message may be, that they force you to have to sit there and wait 30 seconds or a minute, however long that advertisement is, towards watching that advertisement. It doesn't matter if it's selling a car or buying into this or buying a box of washing detergent. They'll force you to watch that ad. But, on the other hand, the messenger that's putting out the message on YouTube gets paid a certain percentage off of every time somebody hits your YouTube channel. So I felt like that YouTube was more brilliant, they was more honest, they was more legitimate. They didn't want to take something that wasn't theirs, but at the same time they was willing to pay for something if there was a large market for whatever that you was saying or doing out there, that they was willing to pay you for various advertising agencies of hooking on to some of your products that you're putting out there. That way, it's fair for the messenger as well as the one that's receiving. It's fair for the messenger, the one who is putting out the message, just like it is fair for the messagee who is receiving the message. Good luck to all of us. Good luck. It has turned into nothing but a free-for-all upon this planet, in one aspect or another. I was listening to the news a while ago over in, I think, Great Britain, where it looks like that their currency is at the brink of failing. I have never in my life seen so much discord. And if there's ever been a time that we needed to pray for our political leaders, pray for the victims out west pertaining to the fires, pray for our families, those who are suffering and had suffered so severely pertaining to different things that has went on in their lives. If there's ever been a time that we needed to unite and pull together and pray for each other and act like civilized human beings, I really think that that time is upon us, because, you know, even a herd of cows, as dumb as they are, once they identify that there's a problem either with wolves or bad weather, or they sense something that's going to occur as far as an earthquake or whatever, they immediately come together and form a circle of unity. That way, they stand a better chance of surviving than it would be if they was all separated. Because if you're all separated and divided, then the enemy can take you off one at a time. And as he's eliminating different ones one at a time, then the herd becomes weaker. And as the herd becomes weaker, the herd becomes more vulnerable. And apparently, certain people in America has not either identified that or don't understand that concept. It's amazing to me, because you know that one cow versus another cow don't necessarily like the way that that other cow smells or acts, or the way that it boos, or the way that it eats its grain, or the way that it uses its bathroom, or the way that it does this or does that. But whenever it comes time of pulling together, you can bet your bottom dollar, I don't care what bunch of herd of cows that you have, Longhorns, Herefords, Black Angus, whatever, young or old, once they identify that there's a problem, they put aside their indifferences and they pull together, because they know that that is a survival tactic. And that may be the only thing that helps preserve the herd, is the fact that they have pulled together. And we have yet to do that here in America. And the only thing that I can say about that is that it's really sad, because we should have pulled together and remain pulled together the day after 9/11. 9/11 was very short-lived. It was only lived for about a year or so. And then since then, we've let our guard down, and we've let this happen to us, and that happen to us, and this happened to us, and that happened to us. And now it's just, I hate to use the word easy pickings, but it's become pretty obvious that Satan is picking us off one by one. He's going into our sanctuaries, into our schools, into our churches, into our cafeterias. He's going into our theaters. He's going into our nightclubs. He's going into our political arenas. He's going everywhere towards bringing harm and destruction to the herd. And once our adversary can weaken the herd enough to where the herd is no longer considered a herd, then is whenever the enemy will come in full blown. And then is whenever the enemy will have a better chance of destroying the whole herd all at once. Because the herd has never become a herd. The only reason why a herd is because they pull together as a herd, as a unit, as a body. That's why you call them a herd. You don't call one or two cows out here that's off grazing by itself a herd. That's not a herd. That's one or two calves out there, or one or two cows out there that's grazing. There is a distinction between a couple and a single. There is a distinction between a group, singular, or you know what I'm trying to say. And this is the part that I guess don't register with the American people for some reason. And it's become detrimental. It's really, really sad. I'm going to end this up. Let's listen to this real quick, and then we'll sign off pertaining to going into another weekend right before Thanksgiving. Want to wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving. And once more, keep people in prayer out west that has went through so much devastation. And be thankful for everything that you have. Even though you may not have much, it's more than somebody living in Honduras having to sleep underneath a palm tree. Please listen.
High School of Science and Medicine could eventually be renamed after the late Aretha Franklin because, according to one school board member, having Carson's name on the building was, quote, synonymous with having Trump's name on our school in blackface. Joining me now, Charlie LaDuff. He is the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist who has covered the Detroit area extensively. He's author of the new book, be careful with this, Blank Show. The country's collapsing and the ratings are great. Good to see you, Charlie.
Good to be here, man.
So my folks here at the show put together an incredible packet about really awful statistics, frankly, about the drinking water in Detroit schools being despicable, about some of the kids at the Ben Carson School. 8% of the students at the School of Science and Medicine are proficient in math. 8%. This is a national crisis, and we're talking about renaming the school instead of teaching these kids.
Yeah, it's a matter of priorities, isn't it? I mean, hello, America. Hello, St. Louis. This is just another one of those things, I think, that just frustrates us all. Because, again, you're going to rename it because you don't like the guy. But that's the school board president. But here's the funny thing. The school board's decided that they're going to rename a couple. Well, they're going to go through a process. It hasn't been done. But they're going to rename schools that don't reflect the community or its history. So why in the world are they also considering renaming Frederick Douglass Academy? You get what I'm saying? Over half the schools have lead poisoning, so they have to shut off the fountains. 8% proficiency in math. 30% proficiency in reading, and this is what we're doing, and this is why New York's calling.
I want to get back to the reading and math, which seems the most important part of this discussion, but I can't let pass what you just said. So there's another school named after the great Frederick Douglass, and there are people who want to take his name off of school. Why in the world would they do that?
They want to, I don't know. We're going to have to let it shake out. Again, it's a process. It goes to another board and we vote on it. But let's get down to the real issues in the city and the country. The kids aren't learning, and just blaming their parents isn't going to work, because you know what? I came from a house that wasn't exactly, stable all the time. But when you go to school, when the kid leaves, his boat's supposed to have risen a little bit. Whether his home's messed up or not, he's supposed to be able to do math at better than 8%. And we're sitting there arguing over the name of the school in Ben Carson.
It's criminal, really.
It's ridiculous.
But I don't want to just sit here and bash Detroit. You're there,
it's awesome.
And you love the city. And I was there for a Detroit Tigers game a couple years ago, and the comeback is real. So I don't want to just focus on the negative. Talk a little bit about the comeback for the city and how this must make it more frustrating for you, because on one hand, the city's coming back, and then on the other hand, you have this nonsense going on.
Well, I hate to be a reporter about it. I decided to move my family here. I'm not leaving. We have a lot of building going on. We have a lot of nightlife again, right? Mm-hmm. But the city continues to lose population out in the neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. So we're creating a core. But all of this stuff, where Frederick Douglass is, where Ben Carson is, are struggling beyond belief. In fact, Moody's just gave Detroit's borrowing status a junk rating. So we're coming back, but like a lot of America, you wonder, are we on a cliff? Is this for real? Is it a bubble? So
Yeah.
Tigers are great. Steak at night is great. Craft beer is great.
Right.
But education. But listen, a firefighter just died on the job, right? And his wife and kids will not have health insurance because of the settlement and the bankruptcy.
Wow.
They're thrown off of it. So I don't fully buy into it. I want results. I want numbers. I want police. I want them to be respected. And I want children to do well.
I only have 1 minute left, but at that Ben Carson school I mentioned, 8% of the students proficient in math, 20% proficient in reading. So better number, but still awful. The president carried the state of Michigan. The president in the campaign said that he wanted to help cities like Chicago and Detroit. What's your message to him tonight?
Well, here's my message to all of y'all, all the Democrats and Republicans. The Rust Belt went red. It's a national embarrassment for the Democrats. You're all going to be here in droves with your billions of dollars. Pay attention to our children and their futures. You deliver that, you convince people, you'll win here.
Charlie LaDuff with a very personal to him message, but also a very powerful message for all of us tonight. Charlie, appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me, brother.
All right. And after an attempted assassination, we've watched Congressman Steve Scalise's heroic road to recovery. But there's still a lot we don't know, like the unexpected friends he's made along the way. He shares his untold story with Martha. That's next.
Once more, be careful with any social media, especially Facebook, because right now they've got a lot of loose ends. Happy Thanksgiving!